How lucky am I to have lived through and been old enough to appreciate Final Fantasy's golden age. And when the series was at its height, I wasn't even aware of the concept of a Game of the Year. Even to this day, I have no idea if or what those golden age titles won as far as accolades. I simply don't care, and I've never cared. In my head, there was no competition worth pitting them against, because they were so unlike anything else I was playing. You see, there were video games I played for fun, and then there was Final Fantasy, a world unto its own, the ultimate escape, bigger than any comparisons, bigger than any conversation about plaudits and trinkets. So, as far as Rebirth, it's a little funny to me that there's even a crown worth chasing for Final Fantasy, as a mark of validation. And ironically, that it should come down to this moment, a trophy within its grasp, at the point when the series has drifted perhaps the furthest from itself, not just by daring to do something different, but by daring to do something different with something already so loved and so representative of what the series used to be. If I wanted to be dramatic, I could say they've done it by gutting the ultimate specimen and wearing it like a photorealistic fur coat and telling you it's beautiful just because you've never seen your cherished thing draped quite like this before. But I'm not really a dramatic sort of person. Yes, Square Enix, maybe your wild dream paid off. Your AAA, the Game of the Year trophy is in range. Can Rebirth reach into the darkness and claim the prize? We know Square Enix wanted more than anything, and of course I know why it's so valuable. It's normal for creatives and studios to want these things. And then there's Hamaguchi, the game's director, scratching at the door like a lovesick puppy, waiting to be led inside the awards ceremony.
Just want to be popular as the new boss. Oh, love me. Pathetic.
Well, maybe I'm being a little harsh. He's just proud of what he's delivered, and no doubt feels he's earned the Game of the Year trophy. But I could do without seeing creators sniffing after an award or nomination. It feels a little desperate. Just let the judges decide. Nobody's entitled to a nomination, let alone an award, just because of effort spent, just because you're a familiar entity. As for the fans, well, I get why they would want and chase these things too. But I also think there are some who want the trophy for reasons beyond their love of Rebirth. There are some who believe an award will make the bad people go away. There are some who feel that Rebirth is the flagship of a Final Fantasy renaissance or resurgence, and that placing a crown on its head will somehow cement that. But you can have all the trophies in the world and still lose the one thing that matters. You can be crowned in spite of the mistakes you make. You can be king of an empty world. As for the other Game of the Year contenders, some will argue that Rebirth is a monumental project in comparison, with acres of voice-recorded script and lifelike performances, while offering so much to do, and so rightly deserves an award of some kind. But in a battle for Game of the Year, should effort, financial investment and sheer amount of content secure the award? Should studio size and hours spent come into the equation? I'm not really sure how these things are decided. I just know they wouldn't be things I'd consider if I were judging Movie of the Year. I'd just engage with the art and make a decision. I wouldn't be looking for what went on behind the curtain, or how much of a fan I already was or wasn't of a particular studio or the creators involved. And although there were many titles I enjoyed this year, I have no desire to cheer them on. And still, I get why it matters to people. There was a time when I felt that way about the Academy Awards, but I stopped caring a long time ago, and instead derived my enjoyment purely from the art, totally divorced from how many statues it collected along the way. I learned that an award is just recognition for the studio and creators, and something they can put on a CV and update their packaging with. And maybe what I had actually been cheering on was not just an agreement of what the very best was, but also some sort of recognition of my own choices, of the art that spoke to me, as if patting myself on the back for getting it right, for my sense of what was fine art, aligning with the Academy. In other words, I had backed the right horse. My chosen art had won. It's easy to fall into that way of thinking. Of course, we have an emotional attachment to art, and if a certain movie or game we love receives criticism, we can always turn around and say, well, people voted it the thing of the year. Now we've got an award on our side, industry approved, so, if you don't like it, it must be you that's missing something. And predictably, we have some Rebirth fans already clinging to the accolade, as if it will help justify every decision Square Enix made, as if it will silence a large part of the fanbase who didn't like Rebirth, as if it will pour water on the flames of a divisive title and continuously divisive decision making. But there's no putting out the fire that Square Enix started. A divisive title is still a divisive title, even if it has an award in its hand. If Avatar had won the Best Picture Oscar in 2010, if you'd already seen it, I doubt an award would have made you feel any differently about the movie. If you already thought it was overrated, then a trophy may have only cemented that train of thought. While, if you were a fan of the movie, I'm sure the award would have given some major validation to your feelings to go alongside its record-breaking box office success. It will be all too easy to say, look, actual industry experts say this is the best thing. So, in short, in either example, feelings have been reinforced. Perhaps the award itself draws new eyes to the product, but it doesn't generally change how people think about that product as a work of art, if they've already experienced it, and it certainly doesn't overwrite or invalidate any of the criticism someone may have directed at that product. And so what it comes down to for me is, believe it or not, I don't care whether or not Rebirth wins Game of the Year. I have no investment in the awards ceremony. It won't move the needle one way or the other for me. I won't cheer if Rebirth fails to snatch the prize, and if it wins, I won't curse. When it's all said and done, either way, for the fans who acknowledge the golden age, no amount of trophies can undo the damage. And today, Final Fantasy is damaged goods. Well, maybe that's not quite right. What I knew was Final Fantasy is now damaged, beyond repair. Someone broke it so fiercely it became something else, and that other thing seems to be the kind of thing that rubs shoulders with Game of the Year silverware and the journalistic elite, and thrives off the story it weaves on social media and the online world connection it maintains with its fans, rather than servicing the only world and story that ever really mattered. But if you love Rebirth, love it all the same, regardless of what happens next. Losing out on a top spot at some inflated awards ceremony shouldn't change anything. After all, it's an achievement just to get these projects off the ground, and if art is lucky enough to have a fan base, then that's the award in itself. It might not be enough for the shareholders, but that's something for them to worry about. As for me, I think I had it right as a child. I don't remember ever reaching the end of the year and thinking, what's the best new thing I played in this calendar year? My games and adventures rolled into one another like a timeless dream. There was just the escape, the ultimate fantasy, story, world, character, gameplay. And if they got all that right, it was better than any prize. Final Fantasy was so much bigger than this.